What's up, Starcraft fans? Today we're doing the tier list for Moths to the Flame on Rifts to Core Hall. Brian, let's hear the mutation.
Rifts to Core Hall is the map where we have to destroy 10 void shards before timer runs out. Each set of void shards we destroy adds time and reveals the next set. Enemies pull you in and spawn Broodlings when they die. A Purifier Beam spawns every 10 minutes and chases and damages your dudes.
Alright, so Edpun Home is in the call with us today. Edpun Home, how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm stressed as usual, looking for people to do the tier list as usual. You've seen how difficult it is, right? No one's ever available. Yeah. Oh my Donnie. How do we rank the commanders this week?
Commanders that can bypass some or all of the mutators do exist. Obviously, if you're just far enough away or in your base, then the Fatal Attraction doesn't matter because you're not nearby, and the Purifier Beams can't come into your base, so being able to deal extreme long-range damage, which is rare, is nice. Having units that can ignore the pull, like Siege Liberators that aren't affected by Fatal Attraction, is a big plus as well. And then people who just have very beefy units that don't care about the fact that they're fighting for approximately 1% of the time they're out can be pretty nice.
That's pretty cool. Mine is a bit simpler. If you can deal with Fatal Attraction, you're B. If you don't have to deal with it at all, you're A. But if you're really good, also not having to deal with it, you're S. So simple as that. It's Fatal Attraction all the way because all commanders have a means to draw away the Purifier Beam, so I count this more of a skill check than a commander check. Let's begin. Abathur, where do we have him?
Abathur is fairly solid against Fatal Attraction because his units are just that, healthy. Have some life steal, obviously, once they get biomass going, and they have a large health pool to work with. And then you also have Swarm Hosts who can just send Locusts that you don't care how many die or get Fatal Attraction. As long as you keep your Swarm Hosts at a distance, you'll be fine. You do have to be careful. Once your Swarm Hosts get pulled in once, it's all over. They're going to get pulled across the map. And good luck. But I think Abathur is going to do fairly solidly here. I think he can largely ignore Fatal Attraction, doesn't completely escape it, so B tier.
I have him in A tier, actually, because you can just go first Prestige and Devourers. Once you get 7 Devourers, you just fly, no joke, just fly to where the void shards are, right-click the void shards, then move on. The enemy can't kill you.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
For me.
Yeah, I'm fine with A tier then on that. I'd not tried that myself, but
you should. It's very fun.
Fully believe it.
It's very
1,000
fun.
health, splash damage, lifesteal seems like you could probably do it.
7 Devourers are enough. Just get the 7 Devourers. You can just defend at home with Spore Crawlers and Toxic Nests, and then just grab biomass for your Devourers, and it's all good. It's all good. A tier. All right, you agree with A?
Yeah, A is good for me.
All right, A it is. Alarak, for me, he can deal with Fatal Attraction, but it's going to be a bit painful. You can go with Warp Prism and just overcharge, try to snipe the shards from there. You can also go Wrathwalkers, but if you go against Zerg, there's a higher chance that the enemy will try to walk within range of you, and especially the Broodlings will try to run within range. And no matter how far you try to keep away from the enemy, once the Broodlings get in range and you destroy them, you will get pulled in, and it's all she wrote. You do have an escape route with the Mothership. You can teleport away with the Mothership and get your forces out of there. Maybe leave the pylon or the War Prism to keep it overcharged, but it's still gonna be a little annoying, but you can absolutely deal with it. I have him in B tier.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Obviously, you can also, you do have knockback wave with Alarak, so if you keep him in front of your actual army, hopefully he's the only one that gets pulled, and he can obviously just one-tap a massive wave of Broodlings if you have to deal with it. And he does have the escape plan, so I'd say B tier is pretty good.
Yeah. By the way, for Alarak, how you trap the beam is you can get a probe out and have it patrol in a hexagonal pattern, or if it's on the other side of the map, you can just ferry the probe across in your void or in your Warp Prism, and then drop it. Have the probe do the hexagonal patrol, it should be good. All right, Alarak B tier. Prestige wise, third one.
Yeah. I guess if you're going for Wrathwalkers, I'm not sure. Does underpowered Alarak on P1 still one-shot Broodlings with the knockback wave?
I don't think he one shots anything if he's the first prestige. Although
Yeah.
he can still do
Unless
it.
he does that, then I'd say probably P3. If in theory you could one-shot them, which I don't know. Broodlings don't have a lot of health, but it doesn't deal a lot of damage at the same time. I'd have to test. But you could in theory go P1 if that does still do that.
Yeah,
If you're not
Alarak the
able to mass
hero.
kill Broodlings with that, I'd say no.
Alarak the hero is very sad on first prestige because he can't one shot anything. So yeah, that's the situation. B tier's still fine though. B tier's not bad.
Yeah, B tier's not bad at all. I was just saying for the prestiges, maybe you could go P1, but if you can't one shot the Broodlings, which it sounds like you probably can't, then yeah, I'd say you're gonna have to go P3.
Arcturus,
Not that
where do we
anyone's
have him?
complaining particularly. Arcturus obviously has the typical ESO strategy. You can kill the first 3 sets of rifts from within inside your base. The last set of rifts, there are a couple different areas. You can just kind of, I just sort of played hopscotch, or you can pull the beams. Once you have the beams trapped, then you can go into the little back area in between the second, third, and fourth rifts and get a free kill on the final set of rifts. You can even do that instantly if you can trap the beams. It's just once the second beam spawns, if you haven't won, it could go straight for your ESOs there, and then you lose them. So
Yeah,
you can go on the main base and then the natural base to kill the first sets, and then the third set or the fourth set from there. So I'd say because of that, I'd probably put him in S tier. He can just completely ignore very well because he also has bunkers to deal with attack waves and things like that.
true.
So yeah, I'd say S tier.
I agree. I also have him in S tier because, as you mentioned, Earth Splitters do all the work. You can even go third prestige and never leave your base because you can just nuke the last shards, and that's gonna be all good. S tier, Arcturus. First prestige if you really want to go into Earth Splitters only, but if you want the other top bar, specifically the nuke top bar, you can go the third prestige as well. Artanis for me, he does have a way to deal with this. You have to solo bombardment the second shard or the second set of shards, snipe it, use Tempest, use Phoenix, whatever you can, just find a way to burst it down. And then once they're burst down, you can just go Mass Tempest and go around the the west side of the map. Go around in a semicircle and arc around to the top part where you can deal with the last set. So you can skip the bases. But still, yeah, it's gonna be painful, especially if you get pulled in. Watch out for things like Mutalisks, Phoenixes, Ravens, anything that'll just draw your forces in. Otherwise, just try to snipe the things from afar so they don't get pulled in. B tier.
Yeah, I think he'll do pretty well getting the actual shards, but then defending attack waves, Tempest, especially if you get like a Ling comp or something like that, or like
Yeah.
Baneling Scourge, then
Yeah.
it's going to be very, very hard to not get pulled directly into the middle of the Scourge and Mutalisks and everything like that. So because of he's good against the actual objectives, but he's going to have a hard time against the attack waves with that comp. So yeah, I'd say B tier for sure.
All right. Okay. Let's move on. Dehaka, where do you have him?
Dehaka is going to do relatively well with pack leaders. Dehaka himself might have quite a bit of a rough time because you're going to get pulled around a lot. If it was just Fatal Attraction, it wouldn't be so bad, but the extra Broodlings make it, you just have that much more downtime with him. Once you get your pack leaders out and creeper hosts, obviously, creeper hosts don't really care. And you can kind of just do what we were talking about with the Devourers, where you just send the waves directly at the shards from your natural for the third set and from the main base with the first couple, and then
Pack leader.
yeah, won't be too difficult. And pack leaders obviously can handle anything else. And this rifts, but they'll also do very well against the attack waves, so you kind of have something to handle everything pretty darn well. So I'd say Dehaka's S tier.
Yeah, I was worried you were gonna have him A or lower. I do have him in S tier. I don't think the enemies will be any problem at all. You can just have a couple of worms in your base if you're worried about things getting into your creeper host line. And of course, the Hawk himself, very good. You can still do the magic fart. The enemies won't be that much stronger. You can just devour a psionic unit and explode everything else. The fatal attraction will not be relevant afterward. So S tier for the Haka. Any prestige is fine, but second prestige I think is still better.
Yeah, especially because this is a map with pretty simple, straightforward attack waves, so you're not worried about multiple angles or anything like that. You're not worried about having to have Dehaka and a pack leader up at the same time or anything like that. So definitely
Yeah.
P2.
All right, Phoenix is gonna be painful. I think you just do the same thing. You can run your champions into the attack waves. They will be successful, but you'll have to keep replenishing them. You can go second prestige, but I think third prestige can also have some sort of merit because you want to replace Kaldalis constantly because you will get destroyed constantly. Or you can also replace your other champions, so maybe the refund will make it worthwhile. But you can still go to second prestige. I don't think it's gonna be that much different. It's just whatever your preferred whatever you prefer. That being said, he can't ignore Fatal Attraction, so I think he only goes up to B tier. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Fatal Attraction is definitely going to be a pain. You do, again, yeah, you have very cheap, very, very cheap units on P2 or P3, really, that you're utilizing. And yeah, I think P3 would be fine because, I mean, Caldalis is, you're barely going to be, well, you might want to go P2 just so the few hits that Caldalis is doing before he gets yanked around or
Deal
dealing maximal
damage.
damage and things like that.
Yes.
But yeah, I think B tier it makes sense.
Yeah. First prestige would be very annoying to use because once you use the solar cannon, you'll just get dragged in the direction of your cannon. It's gonna be pretty funny, and you won't actually be able to
Yeah.
spam it because your attacks get canceled once you get dragged in. Anyway, Phoenix B tier, Haunted Horner. Where do you have him?
Haunted Horner has bombing platforms, which are pretty darn good against Fatal Attraction in that they completely ignore it. A lot of her actual army is maybe going to feel a little bit of pain from that, but this might even be a P3 play and just turtle up at home, bombing platform, everything. Um, I think she'll do quite well. Perhaps not S, but A tier, because again, yeah, she's going to struggle against the attack waves a little bit more, I think. Unless you get enough bombing platforms to deal with those while also dealing with the rifts. And you have cooldowns, so somewhere between A and S.
I actually have Haunted Horner in B because yes, you can use the air strikers. However, bunkers are gonna be really annoying. They always shoot down your air strikers. But there is a way around it. You can just bomb the bunkers themselves and the missile turrets or any static defense, and then you can just send battle cruisers in with the second prestige, and do the same thing that you would do with Dehaka, just or with Abathur. Just right click the shards themselves. With battle cruisers, you can even teleport to the safe areas of the map, and do your work from there. So you know what? I'm not too opposed to A tier. I'm okay with A tier. What prestige?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like I said, you could go mass bombing platform, but it gets up a little late, and this is generally a relatively quick map. But I think P2 would make sense for sure, because yeah, I mean, you're not using galleons for all too much.
For defense, I think you can do a combination of mag mines, top bars, and even widow mines. Or
Yeah,
you
I
can
don't
just
think Widow
go.
Mines get pulled, do they? So Widow Mines would actually be fairly solid.
I do hear. I did hear someone say that the widow mines can be pulled, but
Oh.
they're burst damage. So you only really need them to shoot once.
Yeah, if they shoot
That's
once,
my
it's good enough. It's so inconsistent. Like Liberators don't get pulled, tanks don't get pulled if they're
yeah.
sieged, but burrowed Widow Mines yanked right out of the ground. Nothing's consistent about some of these things. But yeah, yeah, I'd probably
Blizzard.
mass Widow Mine,
Blizzard. Haunted
Blizzard
Horner.
at it again.
A tier. Okay. Karax for me. Well, you can probably guess. Actually, no. I only have him in A tier. Maybe S, but I have him in A tier because you can do the Solar Lands thing, but it's gonna take a while because you need to wait for the Solar Lands to always be available. You can't just turn up with static defense, and you can burst down the or the void shards with just your top bars. It's gonna take a while though, so I only have an A. But again, I'm not opposed to S. What do you think?
I think, well, yeah, I mean, it's going to take a while, but it's one of those things where it's like,
It's
yes,
inevitability.
tortoise and the hare, slow and steady wins the race, right? It's like, well,
Yeah,
does it matter if it takes 30 minutes if I have like a 2% chance of losing and that 2% is me just messing up? So I'd say
forgetting to use
probably
top
S.
bar.
I mean,
Yeah,
cannons are fantastic for the home defense. You're not really worried about the waves killing you, and you have your top bar, and the top bar really can probably solo, but you could even, I don't know, You
Yeah,
get some kind of army out if you really want to, but yeah, top bars are pretty much going to solo.
I think you will have a Purifier Beam for every attack wave. So at some point, you won't even need your static defense.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, if the you could even sneak out, get some Kid Aaron monoliths early on if you need
Yeah.
to deal with like set one, set two, before the Purifier Beam gets to them. So
All right.
yeah, I think it's good enough
So S
to
tier.
be S.
All right.
I would say so. Yep.
Karax S tier. Third prestige because you want the top, the solar spear between. That's the whole thing. Kerrigan, where do you have him?
Yep. Um, Kerrigan will have some struggles with the pull. You can, deal large area damage with the dash, but yeah, Kerrigan's going to have a rough time. I'm trying
Yeah.
to think army wise, maybe Broodlords, but that's very comp dependent, and a lot of the bases have fairly strong anti-air defenses, like Vikings if it's Terran and whatnot. So they're going to pull over towards you, and then I guess you have Mutalisks or Kerrigan to deal with those. But then yeah, it gets messy. She doesn't really have a great way of avoiding or ignoring really. So I'd say B to C tier, unless I'm missing something.
Mm, I have the same. I came to the same conclusion pretty much. The only offense you can do is just immobilization wave and destroy as many as you can to minimize the field attraction, but you'll still have to deal with some of them. It's gonna be a certain time. It's gonna be pretty interesting. It's gonna be a pretty interesting experience. You can't just power through. Yes, you can just go hero solo Kerrigan and mass Omega Worms and just mass Queens in your base. So the only thing dealing damage is Kerrigan, and when you're too hurt, just walk back into the Omega Worm, teleport back home, get healed, get transfused by the Queens, and then pop out. Just focus on the shard so you don't get pulled. And once enemy waves arrive, that's when you use immobilization wave. But it's gonna be a certain time. For me, it's B. I agree. Prestige. Third one should be fine.
Yeah, I think third one's good because if you are just popping out, pop out, insta double click the shard back in. You're
Yeah,
not
I
having
think
to
so
actually
too.
jump around to the shards.
Yeah, you don't need to get there. You just need to stand beside your Omega Worm, and when you're low, just retreat. All right, Kerrigan B tier. Nova is A because she has Liberators and she has Airstrike for the waves. Nova can just, I don't know, no, maybe you can even do third prestige and just have Nova as a spotter, and just drop the nukes or the sabotage drones where you want them. Airstrike the air defenses and the air units themselves. You can use Nova to fight the waves. She'll get pulled around, but you can always just teleport her back with the assault mode, or you can just sacrifice her and revive her. Works. A tier for me.
Yeah, I could see A tier. Obviously, you can also go. Her turrets at home are great for dealing with the trickles because Broodlings tend to run in a straight
Oh yeah,
line, and it one shots them in a straight line, so that's pretty
yeah.
nice. And the tanks are great for defense as well with spider mines, and they can't get pulled by fatal attraction while they're sieged. And then liberators, yeah. I mean, you can go P3, clear out whatever anti-air there is around the shards, and then liberator them while you're defending at home with tanks and turrets and airstrikes. And then even if you're nuking the shards, you're not too worried about the giant flood of broodlings because turrets will just slaughter them. So A tier's solid.
I was wondering if you were gonna put him in S because I'm also considering putting Nova in S, but I guess both of us agree with A. So let's put Nova in A.
I thought about it. It's definitely not like things can still go wrong a little bit more than I would say they can with like Dehaka, Minsk, and Karax.
Yeah, if you lose your Liberators, it's expensive. Whereas if you
Yeah,
lose
and if you
your
are going P3, you're going to be very slow on the Liberators. So you're going to have like maybe 6 by the end of the game. So you don't
yeah,
have a lot to
consider
work
the
with.
guys in S tier. If you lose a few troopers or Earthsplitters or Artanis, oh no. Anyway, if you lose your round of creepers as Dehaka, oh no. Anyway, if you lose your spotter observer as Karax, oh no. Anyway, it's gonna be that sort of situation. So Nova, if you lose your Liberators, ouch. It's painful. That's why I only have her in A. Let's move
Yep.
on. Raynor. What do you have? Yeah.
Raynor P3 does pretty well here. The Hyperion does suffer somewhat because even when it's trying to Yamato, it's still shooting. So like, you're like Yamato. Oh, never Yamato. Never mind. Yamato. Never mind. Over and over and over. But you do just get so many Hyperions, and the battle cruisers are very beefy, so you can start to use them as needed as well. Obviously for base defense. You do have to be, on top of it with P3. You can't just rush out 5 orbitals like so many people love to do. You need a bunker for the first wave, and ideally, and his bunkers are great as well against the Broodlings. Obviously, just a couple Marines in each at each choke point, and you're not really worried about those too much. So he does still hurt a bit against Fatal Attraction, and I mean, depending on the comp, it could be a little bit harder. So I'd say A tier.
Sorry, I wasn't listening after you said battlecruiser beefy. You could have made a cattle bruiser reference right there, but you didn't. I'm so disappointed.
That's true.
I'm so disappointed.
Grade A battle cruisers.
A5 battlecruiser.
Kobe battle cruisers. Yeah.
I only have him in B tier though because your battlecruisers will get pulled in, and it's gonna be a miserable time once they do. I guess they will still win, but you do still have to deal with Fatal Attraction. So for me, that's only B. But do you think, despite that, he's still A?
He's one of the few I actually did try a solo on, and I technically lost in that my Yamatos killed the last shard right as Fenix died uselessly near me. And the battle cruisers, you don't need them for the first 2 sets, and you only need them to finish off the 3rd set once the Hyperion's already pretty much cleared out.
Is that the first time that ever happened to you, losing because your ally's base died? I can't imagine.
I think it's never happened before.
Never ever happened
to me. I'm very, very, very well known for my keeping alive of allies. Go ahead and clear out those buildings just so we don't get any annoying structure overcharge moments in the future. Certified photon overcharge moments.
Our allies are being attacked.
Go ahead and overcharge that. That's a little trick you can use. If you instantly overcharge the satellite after you drop it, it will be invincible even while it's building. And a ship went down. Oh. See? Average mutation ally. But yeah, I mean, you don't need battle cruisers to be out on the map until you have like 20 plus of them, at which point you probably have 2-2, close to 3-3, and they just ignore most everything. They do get pulled around, but it's almost like a guided tour to each of the shards, It's like, now this way you'll find shard number 2 that you're supposed to kill. So it wasn't particularly difficult. I mean, I had what I'd call a rough comp of, it was a BC air, so you do get like Yamatos, and Vikings and things like that, but I was still able to pretty much pull it off on first try. So I'd say he's A tier, because yeah, you don't need to have the BCs until the Hyperion's already cleared everything out, basically.
Okay, I guess if you insist on A tier, I won't resist because Raynor needs some love. Speaking of guys who need love, Stetboy is also A tier, not S, because you can just throw out your Zerglings, you can also throw out your Roach Ravager from the base, from your investors, of course, not deal with the damage on the infestors themselves, but the Roach Ravager will need to be constantly told to attack. And Gary, of course, can just hold all the attack waves. The only hairy part is the first wave. You will need... Billix might be safer because they will also deal with the Dudelings, but you could probably get by with a couple of spine crawlers and some drones repairing. That's probably the hairiest part. If you have an ally who doesn't defend, or you're soloing this, you do have to put up at least 2, maybe 3 spine crawlers. Or it can go Billings. That's why I only have an A.
I agree. I think you just need to check, what race you're up against, and if it's Zerg, then yeah, get an early Baneling Nest. If it's Protoss or Terran, it's going to be pretty easy to hold with, like 2, maybe 3 spine crawlers, some repair. But yeah, he definitely doesn't just bypass the mutators, but you just have enough Roach Ravager forever, so it doesn't matter. But A tier makes sense.
Oh, you can also go, by the way, I think, Corruptor and just right-click the shards if you have an overcharged Studlight nearby. That will keep your Corruptors alive, but for non-thinking strategies, Roach or Infestors will work just fine. A tier, prestige twice. You still want the second one because second one will just destroy every attack wave. The enemies themselves aren't stronger, so they will still die to an E-Gorb or two. That's why second prestige is still the best.
Yep,
Stukov.
and this map's very linear again, like with the
Yeah.
attack waves and whatnot. So it's not hard to have Steadilites where you want them to be when
Yeah.
you need them.
Stukov. What do you have?
Stukov, it's another P3 cruise basically. Obviously, the first attack wave can be tough, but it shouldn't be impossible to handle with your first spawn broodlings and maybe a bunker just to kind of tank and provide a tiny bit of support. But I think just the spawn broodlings will work. It might, I don't know. I'd have to see how it does against the Zerglings because obviously Zerglings into broodlings with pull might overpower, but I think most comps you'll be fine. And then once that's done, you're off to the races, and your infested Terrans don't care much about getting pulled all over the place. So
Yeah.
I'd say outside of the early game, it's S. I haven't tried the early game to know how much it's A or S, but I'd say somewhere high A, low S.
The first wave hits around 2 minutes 30 seconds. You'll have to repair with your SCVs until infest structure is available at 3 minutes. And also your first round of infested will also be available at 3 minutes. So you can fight them, but it's gonna be annoying. But after that, it's gonna be very easy. S tier, I agree with S tier. That's the only you only have to watch the first part, like the very first attack wave. After that, it's all good. S tier for me. Third prestige, of course. All right.
Yep, S tier, except for every single P3 Stukov you'll run into on random queue, in which case it's A tier.
All right. S tier for Stukov. Swann for me is S tier because he has this thing called Flaming Betty, and he has this thing called Laser Jaw, and he has this thing called Factories. Yeah, S tier. Do I have to explain?
Yeah,
the factories.
not much to
fly.
say.
Yeah. All right. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd say definitely S tier.
Definitely S tier. Now, do you
it's-
want the splash laser or do you prefer having top bars?
Well, the splash laser doesn't matter for killing the shards, and it's not going to do particularly. You're going to spend 80% of the time shooting the shards with it. So
Yeah.
since you're 80% of the time not carrying, I'd say the top bars for the attack waves, that's going to do what you need. Turn them all into broodlings, and then Betty goes to work. So I'd say probably P0, P2.
Okay. S tier, Swann. Fantastic. Tychus, where do we have him?
Tychus, he'll do actually pretty well with Blaze in particular, because once he's set one unit on fire, it doesn't matter much that he's getting pulled around because everything's still dying. And obviously all of his, most of his mercs, looking at Unikara, have like pretty good splash damage abilities, so they don't care about the fact that you're getting pulled after you use the ability too much. And they're very tanky, so the broodlings will be, they're not going to like surround and kill you or anything.
Or they're going to surround you, but they'll still die.
Yeah. I just mean they're not going to, like Nova gets surrounded by broodlings, you might care a little bit unless you have, if you're on P3, that is, if you happen to need to uncloak her. But with them, you're not going to care much.
Yes.
I think, obviously, serious turrets
Seriously
don't
good.
care. Sam, excellent against shards, just snipe them basically, and then Odin Nuke, pretty good at clearing shards as well. So I'd say he still slots into S tier in my opinion.
Agree. I also have him in S tier. I actually didn't think of using Blaze, which would be very relevant because the oil thing, the oil sludge, would make it very, very, at least easy to explain why he keeps laying around. There's oil on the ground. Come on. Of course you're going to slide around. But other than that,
true.
your Odin should be available on the third attack way or on the third set of shards and on the fourth set of shards. That should clear out most of the attack way, or that should clear most of the defenses, leaving room for your other outlaws to just clear what's left. And of course, you can have Cirrus defending the attack waves. Should be fine. S tier, second prestige. Vorazun for me.
Oh, I should have mentioned as well. The obviously you have the this is turning bad, medevac platform, fail attraction. Now you're out. So there is that as well. So.
Oh yeah.
Anyways,
Oh yeah, medevacs don't get affected by fatal attraction. Only if they're Tychus medevacs. If they're who was that guy who has medevacs?
does anyone? Is it
Arcturus.
a Nexus co-op person? Arcturus. Oh
Arcturus.
yes, I
Arcturus
guess
has medevacs.
intercessors. I think they're called or
They
something
will
like
get
that.
intercessors. They will get pulled by fatal
Yeah.
attraction. Vorazun is gonna be well. It can technically just go Void Race, similar to what Artanis would do with Tempests. They don't have as much range, but you can right-click down annoying units and just try your best not to get pulled in too much. If you do get pulled in, you can just Dark Pile and Recall out of there. You can rely on cannons to defend. You can even pre-take out all the anti-air with your time stop with Shadow Guard. Just have them right-click the static defense, and then once the static defenses are gone, just fly your Void Race and right-click the shards. Should be good. But if you get pulled in, it's gonna be a rough time. B tier.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess B tier works. I think she might be a little bit better because of time stop. And I mean, even time stop clear out the defenses, sure, but once you've got 3 or 4 waves of DTs, it's probably time stop going and kill most of the shards before everything unfreezes. Because the Shadow Guard obviously do deal massive single target damage.
Yeah.
But I think B tier is fine. I don't know. I'd have to try it to know better, but I'd say B tier.
All right. I that's fair though. Yeah, if you have enough Shadow Guard / Dark Templar, you can probably just right click down the shards and then run away. You'll be fine.
20
But-
seconds is a long time.
That's what she said.
It's-
Anyway, let's
Oh,
move
yeah.
on.
She
Zagara.
totally definitely did.
Zagara.
Zagara typically really doesn't care about Fatal Attraction because all you're doing is getting my Banelings a little closer to you. It's still that way largely, but the Broodlings do make it so that your Banelings get wasted more. Because they have more targets to explode on, and a lot of those targets are really low value, like Broodlings, but you don't really get to pick what you're hitting. She's still quite strong, but you might have some running out of steam issues towards the later game, depending on the enemy comp. But I'd say A tier.
I have her in A tier also, but I actually have her closer to S than B. Because she can go P2 Corruptors and just do what Abathur would do, but cheaper. The Corruptors will not die.
That's true.
You just right click down the shards, you will not die. A tier for me. But since you also agree, I guess we're unanimous. I'll just say my recommendation is second prestige instead of the first or the third. What do you think?
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Alright, second prestige Zagara. Just fly in your Corruptors, right click the shards, have static defense at home. Your Banelings will be mostly anti-trickle. Actually, you won't have free Bailing, so there we go. Zeratul, count as good, S.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Very, that's very eloquently put, isn't it?
It's very, yeah.
I am a master of words. No one can ever match.
Zeratul's just an eloquent kind of guy, you know?
Actually, Zeratul is very eloquent for a
He
Well-
is.
for a 1,000-year-old guy. He could do better. Just saying.
Yeah, maybe.
At 1,000-year-old, at 1,000 years old, he can probably find more words than Zeratul did. But still, that's still S. All right, that's a lot of this list is very top heavy because we agreed that all commanders have means to draw away the Purifier Beam. The main interaction of this mutation is supposed to be that you get pulled in, and the Purifier Beam gets pulled into where your forces are, and your forces can't run away as they're getting Purifier Beamed. This is what the developers intended this to be. But you guys are smart. You watch my YouTube channel, so you know that all commanders have a means to draw away the Purifier Beam, have it patrol in a hexagonal pattern, and never have to worry about it again. That's why the only consideration here is Fatal Attraction. Anyway, do we have a double S?
Maybe like Swann,
Maybe
but you're not
Swann.
completely. Everyone is playing around the mutation still. It's gonna be more annoying. I don't think there's anyone
Yeah.
that's like just walking in like they like any old Friday or whatever.
Arcturus is probably the closest, rather than Swann.
Yeah, Arcturus or Swann.
Okay, so
Arcturus, yeah, you could maybe
Arcturus
say
top of
it.
S. Who's second in S? Swann. Second in S.
Yeah, yeah, I'd say so.
How
And
about
then
Dehaka?
probably Karax and Dehaka next. You could do either one really. Karax is probably slower than Dehaka, so you could put Dehaka in third.
Okay.
And then probably Tychus. No, Zeratul, then Tychus, then Stukov. Because again, Stukov is the only one in S, I'd say, who has the chance for the early game to be a little annoying.
To go sideways.
I guess Tychus, you have 30 seconds or whatever before Tychus comes out.
Yes.
With the first wave. So yeah, them being at the bottom makes sense because of that. But I think Tychus, you can definitely survive for 30 seconds, and then once Tychus is out, there's no way you're not going to be able to handle it. So
Yes.
yeah, I think that
Yeah,
makes
like
sense.
even if you go AFK, Tychus will just handle it for you. That's
Yeah,
that's what'll happen. Unless you rally the Merc compound across the map and then you AFK, then Tychus just runs across and dies. That's probably the only way. And even then, it'll be absolutely your fault for doing that. Who's top of A?
I think Abathur. The
Abathur?
whole, once you get your Devourers up, then yeah, I mean it's just game over basically. Just
I think
shift queue a few
Zagara.
attack commands and you're done.
I think Zagara's
Zagara?
even easier because you don't have to get biomass for Zagara. The corruptors come ready
That's
built with almost no dying.
that's true. I'm just thinking about base defense against certain comps might be a little more difficult for her than it would be for Abathur. But yeah, I could see it. That'd be fine.
And then Abathur next.
And then yeah, then Abathur, then
Nova?
probably Nova or Stetmann. Probably Nova.
Yeah, Libers
Because
are
you can't
really
just
good.
bypass a lot of the bases. Stetmann, unless you go Corruptors, is going to have to actually fight through a lot of the bases that you can just kind of skip as Nova.
I think Stetboy is
Um,
next.
yeah, Stetmann, and then probably Han and Horner, then Raynor.
Alright, that works for me. Although. No, yeah, this is right, yeah. I was thinking that Raynor has at least bunkers that will never get pulled in. And he has siege tanks, but I guess the air
That's
strikers more than make up for that. Top of B.
I think top of B, we're gonna go.
Take
I'd
Phoenix.
say Vorazun
This
probably.
could be the bottom. Vorazun?
Yeah, Phoenix and Kerrigan are at the bottom. I'd say probably. Artanis above Alarak probably, and then yeah, I'd say that makes
Is
sense to me.
Kerrigan below our Alarak?
I mean, you are just doing a hero solo. Alarak,
Oh,
I guess,
Alarak
has
at the
more.
very least has overcharge, so that's something.
Yeah,
All
yeah, they're
right,
very close for sure. It's not a
and none of them
big
are
difference between.
bad. B isn't good. B is actually above average. It's not even mediocre. B is above average. So, above average relative to how commanders normally do across all mutations. So, some of you might be thinking, well, uh, how can this commander be called? How can B be good when it's the bottom? And what's the point of a tier list if everyone's S or A? The tier list is meant to be applicable across all mutations. So when you have a top heavy tier list, it means the mutation is easy. That's why everyone can be S or A. Whereas if you have stuff like polarity or uh, the boombots, no one will be S because no one can solo it. That's why the tier list is meant to be applicable across everything. Anyway, yeah, I think that's it. Just make sure that you know how to draw the Purifier Beam in hexagonal pattern. Or I guess if you want, you can go Kerrigan and just keep the beam preoccupied forever with your Omega Worms. Though even then, Overlords would be cheaper and easier to have a hexagonal patrol. But yeah, I think that's it. Hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for watching. If you have an idea for an also, please leave it in the comment. I'll see you guys next time.